One of my favorite comedians, Jim Gaffigan, he said this. He said, parenting is exhausting, it's thankless, but at least one day you die. And so, that was hilarious.
It's so bad.
But what an honor it is. Anyone can have, you can have a kid, right?
Yeah.
But to be a parent that trains up a child in the way they should go, who becomes successful in life, that takes work. And you're all here, we're doing the work and the things. But I want to, and I'll probably say this at everyone, this is what train up a parent, what we do. We call it TOP, right? We parent today for what we want tomorrow. So everything that I'm doing today is in a way saying, this is what I want to experience. I'm, in a sense, guiding my family to what I want in my future. Many people, they allow things and things that are happening, not realizing that what I'm doing today is setting a course for where my family is going to be in a year, in 5 years, and in 10 years, and in 20 years. One of the great examples that me and Holly did, I believe about 20 years ago, was we were watching Blue Bloods, and on Blue Bloods they have this meal every Sunday with the family. The whole family all comes together and gather, and we were like, I want that. When our kids get out of the house, we want that. So rather than wait till the kids get out of the house, we began that week of having what we call Me Amigo Sunday. Every Sunday, right, when they were just young kids, we'd all go out to Me Amigos, and we'd have a time of laughing and family and relationship. And we created a habit. Now that my kids are, I got 2 kids out of the house and married with grandkids, now you find that on Sunday, they still are coming over and doing that every Sunday.
Well, I wanted to add, it's also, as you get busier, especially when you add more kids to your home and they get involved, and pretty soon you have like extracurriculars through the week, and you just find, especially in their teen years, and they start adding friendship, and they start driving, and they can, someday date. It gets really hard to check in, and that was another added benefit to Me Amigo Sunday. It was just 2 hours is all I requested, just 2 hours. I want you there, and there's no girlfriends, and there's no boyfriends at Me Amigo Sunday family lunch, because I wanted their undivided attention. It's a great time to check in with them and find out what's been going on, and
Laugh,
friends and girlfriends add, their attention gets refocused. So what we found is it also benefited us that way. Like, we really kept in touch, and it didn't exasperate them, especially when they're making that transition from, being all in and under your watchful eye to hopefully contributing adult. And so it was a really good transition to have that check-in time that was scheduled every Sunday, not exasperating on them, just enough time that they had to spend with us and hang out with us, but they actually looked forward to it. I was actually just going to say, anytime you need to see your teenagers, feed them or offer to get them a coffee.
Right. Take them out to, and so maybe that's something you want to see in your future. I encourage you, start it this week. Start a thing, get it in your kids as a habit. Because what I see parents sometimes do is all of a sudden the kids get married. They're like, hey, we want to have a Sunday. And the kids are like, no, we're busy, blah, blah, blah. Because you haven't put that in. You didn't parent today for what you want tomorrow. The tonight section, as we're talking about, and really Train Up a Parent is all about instilling biblical character inside of our children. Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks, so is he. So what's in me is driving my life, right? Jesus said, out of the good things in your heart, you bring forth good treasures. Out of the negative in your heart, you bring forth negative things. So it shows us the importance of us as parents of putting the right things in our children and allowing those right things to drive their choices and their decisions. Whether or not your kids grow up to be hard workers, whether or not they grow up to be loving, caring people that encourage and build up, whether or not they have self-control, it has everything to do with what we as parents are putting on the inside of them, which is going to help navigate their life. Because character is what your child is made of. Like a good character. Like I want a kid, right, as we're looking at our kids, raise up kids who have great character. They're made up of the right stuff. Not the world's philosophy and maybe the world's culture and the world's ideas. How many people know that changes year by year?
Yep.
Well, what was acceptable a year ago is no longer acceptable today. 5 years ago, everything seems to change. But the Bible is unchanging. And the biblical principles that God set apart as you look at the things that he put in there were things to help us have a great life, things to help us make right decisions and right choices, to experience life at a higher level. So our job as parents is to put the right stuff in them. Now, there are things out there, and parents can get caught up oftentimes in trying to put morals on their children and in a legalistic way, right? We do this and right and wrong and everything. And that's not what Train Up a Parent is about. We're about instilling it into the hearts and letting the hearts guide their lives. Because parents, any of you ever grew up in a legalistic house, you know that, yeah, I follow the rule until I'm 18, and then I'm going to go a whole lot of crazy. Some of the craziest things happen when kids get out of that rule of the thumb. But that's not what our kids are going to do. Instead, because they understand the whys and the importance and the benefits of making good decisions, it'll be good decisions that drive them for the rest of their life.
The great thing about Train Up a Parent, as Pastor Kelly and Pastor Jason talked last week, is, also finding out that there's stuff inside of us that needs to go. So there might be some character qualities or some traits that you weren't raised with when you were a child and in your childhood at home, and maybe aren't defined or taught in such a way as what the word would define them as. And so when you go through, that's why it's called Train Up a Parent, because we find out as we're going through these things that there's some stuff just based on our childhood environment, maybe the era, even though we're perpetually in our 30s, but there's just different things that you as we're going through this, we find out, oh wow, okay, that's not what that meant to me or meant to me in my childhood home, and it could be tweaked. It could be tweaked definitely according to what the word defines it as. And so you may be going through this, and we may hit a character quality, and you're like, oh, this is a little tough to take because I don't have that one. It's all good. We're training up parents.
We're training up. God looks at the heart, and that's really what we're going to be looking at also. It's not so much the action. Yeah, I want the action, but what's more important than the action is the heart behind the action.
Amen.
Right? It's the heart. So when you ask, you'll see parents ask their junior hire to go do something, and they stomp off down the hall, maybe clean your room, and they slam the door, and a parent just goes, oh, okay, at least they're cleaning the room. They're doing what I said. We don't stop there, because there's going to come a day, remember, I parent today for what I want tomorrow. I don't raise up a kid who, when the boss asks them to do something, right away they slide up into a negative attitude, right? Their spouse asks them to do something, and they're driven by the emotions. But I want somebody that can have a positive attitude in this life, even when they have to do things that are not the most enjoyable. Because life is not about doing everything you want to do. It's about doing things that you need to do, so later you can do what you want to do. And so we deal more with a happy heart. And we'll give you, of course, the keys of being able to do that with your children when you ask them to do something. And it's not like you're going to be done with this and every kid's like, I love to do the dishes. No. I'd love to vacuum. No. But we show you how to go, up, happy heart. And then they force a smile on their face, right? You're like, all right. And then before long, they're enjoying it and be family. Because everything that we're doing is equipping them for the future that's up ahead. And what you find is many parents make the little mistakes day by day that put in the wrong habits and the wrong things, which hold them back in their future. There's 3 levels to character we want to talk about tonight. 3 levels of character. Everyone starts at level 1, right? Our job as parents is to help them navigate from level 1 to level 2 and ultimately to level 3. And so helping them transition. So everyone's born at level 1. Level 1 is this. It's called give me the stage. Give me, level 1. Give me. Come on, every child, you know that. Give me, it's me. It's about my needs, instant gratification. I want it now. I don't want to wait for it, right? Give it, right? It's very selfish, right? You'll never have like a 3-year-old that comes in and goes, hey, Mom, why don't you sit down for a little bit, take a load off. I'm going to go clean my toys up on my own. Like, it's all about my needs and my needs now, right? But here's the thing. If you don't transition a child, by the time they're 3 and maybe 4 years old, somewhere around there, you begin to see some transition a little bit at 2. Out of level 1, a teenager who lives a life about themselves, now we're talking about drugs, we're talking about a whole lot of different problems because it's instant gratification. It's not about going to school and getting good grades. That's not fun, right? Being nice and pleasant to people, that's not fun and enjoyable. And so they tend to do things that, as the Bible would call it, things that feed the flesh rather than things that build a great life. And so we really have to navigate to be able to get them out of level 1. And you may be sitting here and go, well, I got a 12-year-old. But what you'll find through this program is you're not going to have to wait 4 years. They'll navigate a whole lot faster, right? You will be seeing them, if they're level 1 right now at 12, in the next 6, 8, 10 weeks, you'll see them already transition to 2, and then you'll see them very quickly go on to level 3. And so level 1 is selfish, and some of you know, tantrums, fits are part of level 1, and some of you out there, some adults who throw a fit and tantrum when they don't get their way. Anybody out there know what I'm don't look at around like right? Nothing's worse than see a 45-year-old throwing a tantrum, in a sense, an emotional tantrum in a relationship because they didn't get their way. And it's because they haven't transitioned to level 2 character. Level 2 character can go one of 2 different ways. Don't know why. Kids can grow up in the same house, right? They're going to go one of 2 ways. It doesn't matter. The goal is they get to level 2, and then that we begin to transition them to level 3. So level 2 can go one of 2 different ways. They can go chameleon or Pharisee, one or the other. Chameleon is this. So they're out of just me, and now we transition about 4 or 5, and they begin to do the right things. Not really for the right reasons at level 2. They just do it because they don't want to get in trouble, because they don't want to be disciplined, because they want to gain your approval, right? And so that's perfectly fine, is this transition. So they begin to do the right things, but not with the right heart yet, right? And so what a chameleon does is I become whatever you want in where we're at. So I can be one way here, and then I'm another way here. I kind of transition my morals and my character kind of go to please the people around me. I become what's called a people pleaser, right? Which is fine when they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, right? But if they get into high school, now peer pressure becomes a big part of their life, because I can be one way at home, right? But then at school, I'm an entirely different person because I have not yet transitioned into the level 3 area yet. And so it's important. Yeah, you're there at 4 years old, somewhere around 8, 9. Of course, we begin to see it at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5th grade-ish. We begin to see them transition out of level 2 and into level 3, because if you have an adult who's a chameleon, once again, they're a people pleaser, right? And this is the person who's so easily change direction in the wrong direction, right? They can be turned off course very easily at the work and be different here and be different. And the Bible says a double-minded man or woman is unstable in all of their ways. The other one is Pharisee. Pharisee is all about the rule. They're all about that rule, right? And they'll transition from 1 to 2, and all of a sudden you'll have a child that's just all... And this child seems cool and fun because they're the one that's like, Mom, you know what Lakin's doing? Mom, right? Is Lakin really supposed to, right? They're the one, right?
It's not fun. That's not fun. No, that's not fun.
And so they're about the rule. And so they follow the rule because it's the rule. And we do the rule, and everybody does the rule. And I want to make sure that everybody does the rule. And it's fine as long as they transition, because if they don't transition, those are not fun adults. And you can read on Facebook. Anybody see those people online? Like, everybody's evil, everybody's going to hell, right? And these people are just always looking for everybody else is doing wrong. Here's where I am, and the rest of you are all going to hell, right? But even Jesus, who frustrated Jesus?
Right.
The Pharisees. The ones that said, you can't heal on the Sabbath. Jesus is like, are you kidding me? Like, a guy's hasn't been able to move for 30-some years, and you can't go, oh, wow, that's a great day. Instead, you want to talk about a stupid rule, right? And so we have to make sure that we transition, because a child that grows up, I was legalistic all the way up till, and here's what happens with a legalistic child, is that one day, all of a sudden, they go, you know what, I can't meet the rules, so I'm done. I'm not doing any of the rules because I feel guilty. I feel condemned all the time because everything that I do is always wrong and I'm never right. So me and Jason both were kind of legalistic. Or you can be like Jason, he says that he became very judgmental and nobody ever met the bar, and he's always looking down on people. And look at you. Yeah, oh, is that all you pray? Is that all you do? Is that all you got? And so you'll go one or two different ways. Neither way is good. It's all right until you get 10, 11, that we're working on transitioning these children out of level 2.
Well, I was just going to add that context matters. Let's not forget that the goal is that we want to raise kids that other people enjoy, not just ourselves, but other people as well. And then also, kids that turn into adults that contribute to society, and not just in a professional way, but in a relational way. You know, Jesus was relational. So we have to, context does matter. Standard and our expectation matters, but it all comes together later on in the rest of the curriculum, but context matters.
Right, the context of the situation. So don't heal is the rule, but we can heal somebody on the Sabbath, but love supersedes the rule, right? Jesus even said that. He goes, well, the Sabbath was given to make a good day for you. It's supposed to be relaxing. Right. It wasn't supposed to be a burden. You guys made it a burden. Right. If you want to cook on the Sabbath, cook on the Sabbath. Enjoy your Sabbath, right? And so it's funny how men can take something that was meant to be good through condemnation and judgment, we can turn it to be bad. And so we want to make sure that we transition them to level 3. Level 3, this is our goal as parents, is level 3 is godly, where the moral values are inside of them and driving them. They do good, right, because it's the right thing to do. They do good not because they have to and not because they're going to be punished, right, but they do good because there come a time they get out of your house and now they're, right, what are you going to do, Mom and Dad? But instead, on the inside of them is an intrinsic value that doing the right thing brings the right life. Doing the right thing feels good and it feels right. It's going to enhance or make my future better. And so we're working as parents of making sure that we're instilling all that we need on the inside of them so that we can move them to the level 3 godly. And we do this through putting in the 10 virtues that we'll be going through over the next few weeks. The 10 virtues of character. Here's the important thing about character. There's 10 ingredients. Think about it this way. If I'm baking a cake, right, you need milk, sugar, eggs, and flour. That's what you need. What if you were baking, you go, you know what, our family, we don't do milk. So we're fine. We're not going to put milk in ours, and we're just going to do the other 3. Well, you're going to have a horrible cake. And the same thing for character. You see that people will go, as we go through the 10 different characters, people oftentimes will choose. They'll be like, well, we'll do 8, or we'll do 9, right? And I've seen people's whole world gets turned upside down with a teenager who they did 9 of the virtues. They didn't do all 10. And we have to make sure that we are very vigilant in the fact that all 10 are the things that I want to put inside of my children, because these are, I don't want my kids to make 10% bad mistakes. How many people want their kids to do 90% good decisions? I don't want 90%. That sounds like 10% can throw your whole world upside down. I want 100% good decisions.
I wanted to add, can I speak to something that you just said?
Yes.
You were talking about that doing right, it feels good. And I think homes are kind of a training ground to show them that. Because initially, you know, the high road doesn't always feel right. It doesn't always feel good. It is right. Doesn't always feel good. But I think that when we, and those of you who are starting really young, I mean, I know one family in here who are starting really young. Their baby's 2.5 months, so they've got a head start on all of this. But what happens is our homes are these training grounds, and we speak these things into our kids, and we emulate and we model and mentor it. But we can show them that on the inside of them, they do have these on the inside of them, and that they're kind of like muscles that have to be exercised and they have to be used so that they grow more and more, so that when something comes up and they have to choose in that moment, they know the right way to choose, but it may not feel like they want to choose it, but they choose it because they know it's right. And on the other side of that choosing right is where the feeling good comes. Does anyone relate to that?
Amen, amen,
right?
Amen.
So I just wanted to speak to that just a little bit more.
Right. As we're putting in the virtues in our children, our expectations are very important. Because whatever you get out of life is whatever you expect out of life is what you get. And what parents do oftentimes, new parents especially, is we lower our expectations to the child rather than raising our child to the expectation. There's a big difference. This is the biblical expectation here. So they'll lower things to where the child's at, and they'll oftentimes put little cute names on it, rather than saying, no, this is what we expect. This is biblical. This is what we expect out of our children. And your children will raise up to that. And of course, in this, we teach you that it's age appropriate. Obviously, I have different expectations for a 4-year-old than I do for a 12-year-old. But in the same way that I have to make sure parents are great at talking about how smart their child is until it comes to certain expectations. They're genius. Oh, my child's a genius. Yeah, but at 2, they're not smart enough not to touch the remote. How is that even possible? You got a genius child. Obviously, they can learn not to touch the remote, not to open any cupboards, not to certain things they can't touch, because I parent today for what I want tomorrow. So if my home, you can touch and go into anything you want, and then I'm surprised when I take you to a friend's house, and they're like, oh my God, please make your child leave, right? Because they're everywhere. And you're like, I don't know why they're getting into everything. Because they got anything in your house. The house is a training ground for when I go out. So what I do in the house and allow in the house is what I can expect is going to happen when I take them out. So I parent at home for what I want them to be when I go out. I raise my expectations for my child. So if you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so if a lot of parents expect, your 3-year-old to come to you after you've called them 4, 5, 6 times, and so then mom freaks out. When would you go? Right? And then they finally come. Right? Okay, you can do that. I put everything through my annoying test. If something annoys me, I like to fix it. I don't know about you parents out there. I don't like to be annoyed. So if something with my children in my home annoys me, then I put myself on a path quickly to fix that. What I like is being able to call up my 3-year-old and say, hey, Lakin, come here. And they come and say, yes, Dad. Right? That I like. I don't like to have to get all worked up after 5, 6, 7 times of calling you and asking you to do something, and then finally you do that. That annoys me. That's not good. Because there'll come a time in their life when God or their boss or somebody asks them to do something, and you don't want their boss to have to ask them 4, 5, 6 times, because that's not somebody that's going to keep a job very long. And so everything I do today is for the future. So when I call you, my expectation is you go, yes, Mom, yes, Dad. And we start doing that at a young age so that when they get to the appropriate age, when they become 3 years old, 4, it's like with little Olive right now. Little Olive, she's 2. She's amazing. About 75% of the time, 80% of the time, because they've been working with her, come, and she'll come. But there's times where she won't come, and I just come, and I go get her, and that's come. So we still came, right? But we're teaching, no, when Grandpa asks, right, you come to Grandpa. That's what we do. And so that's our expectation, and as she gets older and older, then it'll get a point where it's expected every time.
The word says faith, the word defines faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And Webster defines hope to desire with expectation. So if we're raising our kids in Christian godly homes and we follow this, faith and expectation, those are attributes. I mean, we are to have faith with expectation that God is supernatural and does what he says he's going to do. Why would that be any different in our parenting lifestyle and how we're raising up our kids? To have the expectation, the faith that this is real and true and supernatural, and that they're capable of doing all of the things that this is asking us to train them up to be able to do. And so I think that it's really, really a powerful thing to be very, very careful with our words, because our words have the power to create. So again, like Pastor Scott said, if we're over here talking about our genius, I love that. Call your kids geniuses. I mean, they're going to flourish under that compliment and that praise. But over here, make sure that they're a genius in this as well, and that you're speaking, yes, you can, you've got it, you can do this. And maybe don't talk like that if it's for a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old.
So we raise our kids to the standard. We don't lower the standard of the child. So it's funny how parents will do that. They'll put a cute little name on it. So you got a kid, 6 years old, 7 years old, and you're kind of like in a place, like a mall or something, and they're just running through everybody, stepping on all the adults and all, and they're running, and the parents are like, they just got so much energy. I'm like, no, they're spoiled. It's not an energy problem. We all have energy, right? That's just a child that has not learned self-control and hasn't transitioned because it's all about them. They're not worried about anybody else at that moment. And once again, we're raising up adults who then don't care about anybody else when they're out and around. And some of you have been in restaurants and places where people just don't care about anybody but themselves. That's not who we raise. You got a kid that won't share, and they're like, well, they're just strong. No, they're not strong. They're jerks, right? That's not the same thing.
They're a leader. No.
Right, that's not who they are, right? No, we teach our children how to share, because as adults, once again, I want kids who are givers, who are looking for other people and what other people do. Well, they're just shy, and you'll see that oftentimes, like a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and I'll say hi, and they'll go behind, and they're like, oh, they're just shy. Well, that's not appropriate. I get it if they're 2, but this is a 5-year-old. The minimal you do, here's the expectation, is you simply go, hi. That's it. You don't have to give me a conversation. I don't have to hear about the weather, how your school's doing. But I'm training my children socially. I don't put a label on it. But, right? And so you already see Lakin and Camille already. I'm going to be talking about my granddaughter quite a bit on this, right? Olive. And they'll get, no, say hi. Say hi. And they're already at 2 years old. No, this is how we do. Like, this is the standard. When somebody says hi to you, we say hi back. And so this is what we do. We have to make sure that we continue to have a certain expectation and we raise our children to the expectation. I already said the annoying thing. I put everything through the annoying. So I'm always parenting. So one of the big things that I am, when we drive, we have a quiet car. That doesn't mean that we don't talk, and the kids can talk and have conversations, but it's reasonable because I parent in the car for what I want to be in the restaurant, on an airplane, or anything else. I don't, right? If a kid has a video game back there and you hear it, right, it's all pew, 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 pew. That bores into my soul.
Well,
it literally does.
Let's also.
And so I just go, noise, and the kids make fun of that. I'm like, noise, and then they turn their games down because I don't. You ever been next to that person on the airplane who's watching their movie, and everybody now has to listen to your stupid movie because you are a level 1 character? Because no one transitioned you that there's other people in the world that matter. You are not the only one that matters. But we don't raise up children like that. When you're in the car with a bunch of people, we don't want to hear your video games. That's rude to us because I parent in the car for what I want them to be as adults. And so we talk. You can talk to us. We all talk. We listen to radio and music. It's not like crazy legalistic. But once again, now from the car, we can transition into a restaurant, and people matter because, once again, we parent for our future.
Well, one of the conversations that you and I have had lately is this ability or inability to self-reflect. And we're finding more and more, just with social media and whatever, there's a lot of adults that do not know how to look inward and self-reflect. I'm not talking about beat yourself up, but I am talking about be aware of who you are in the surrounding of other people. The example of being on an airplane or in a movie, and you got, super cutie back here, and they're just trying to talk at you, and they're messing with you from behind. You're like, why are you even in this movie? And mom and dad are just enjoying the movie, and you're like, how?
Why is there a 4-year-old in here?
How is it?
No, you do that in certain movies. You're like,
right. Or like I said, the person that's on the beach and you're having the romantic moment, but they got, some crazy song going really loud over here. And you're like, get some AirPods.
There's other people on the beach.
Yes. So I'm just saying the self-aware being able to look inside and go, okay, is what I'm doing right now affecting everybody around me in a great way? Right. Smile all you want, people, but play your news and stuff super loud. It after a while, it's kind of obnoxious.
And you'll hear us say this a lot because really life is about other people, and we raise up children, and we are family. So you'll hear me say family identity. So the Andersons care about other people's enjoyment when we're out. It's not about just the Andersons. It's about other people because that's life. So if we get that in a habit in the home and something that we do, then it be something that transcends from generation to generation. When we're out as Andersons, we're concerned whether you're enjoying. If my enjoyment is infringing on your enjoyment, that's not right. That's not how Andersons do things. And so this is what we want for Train Up a Parent. It's important as you're going through this that it's 100%. Not legalistic, but we don't want to raise up kids who we give them do you know that kids are gamblers? They'll take that 10%.
Oh, yeah.
They'll do 10%. Like they'll give you 90. They'll give you 90. We had every one of our kids. It was always the sippy cup thing. Sippy cup, you can drink it in the kitchen. I just don't want it on the carpet, right? So every kid, you're like, no.
Tell the story.
We don't drink it on. We'll say it's Peyton, and so Peyton's got his little cup, and we go, no, you drink it in the kitchen. You stay in the kitchen, and every child will just step right on the carpet, just a little. You right? They're just on the carpet, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Just stop it. Get on in the kitchen. So they'll go like halfway. So now it's half in the kitchen, half not. And I'm like, are you? Stop it. Why? I don't even I can't imagine that we're even doing this. No, get in the kitchen. Then it's just a little toe. They just got the toe just touching the carpet, and that's all they want. They just want the toe. Come on, can I have the toe at least? And parents will stop at the toe. They're like, it's close enough. But that's not great parenting because 10% when they are 4 years old isn't much. 10% when they're in high school is a lot. And so I'm not legalistic, but I do need 100% because there'll come a time with their job and their boss, and they got to do 100% of what they're supposed to do. I don't want a child who grows up as a husband and does 90% of what they should do as a husband, and it's that 10% that will destroy their life. And so it's important, of course, as we do this, we show you how to do it in love and kindness. But once again, a parent today for 100%, so that when I tell you as a junior higher, we're not hanging out with those friends.
That's right.
I don't get 90% from you, but I do get 100% because those friends will destroy your life. And so we got to make sure that as parents that we don't stop at the 90, that we go for 100%. It's important that as parents that we are consistent. Consistent. And that's really what we're kind of talking about today with, not asking for 90%. It's just 100%. Everybody wants consistency. Everybody wants to know what's expected out of them. These are things that we enjoy. If you drove down the road and every day the speed limit was whatever the police officer was feeling that day,
That's right.
right? That would be very annoying. He pulls you over, you're like, I was only doing 35. He's like, yeah, today it's 15. Sorry, you get a ticket. You're like, well, how is that possible? Yesterday was 55. He's like, yeah, yesterday was a different day, right? And you see parents do this, where kids can get away with something, and mom blows up, right? And what was all right to do yesterday, today gets all crazy up in the house. And kids don't have any consistency. They don't know what to expect. If I do this, I don't know what's going to happen. But we want to have and raise up kids that they know, my kids know, if I do this, this is going to be the result. It's very consistent. It can't be inconsistent because kids are gamblers. If I do this and sometimes I'm in trouble and sometimes I'm not in trouble, they're going to roll them dice, right? Right? And that's not how life works. When you get out in the world, when you do this, life punishes you. It's not me. It's life becomes the punishing thing in their life. It's a very consistent punishment, right? And so we want to make sure that we're training up our children with a sense of consistency. It's very important that you do not go home tonight and go, all right, guys, first time obedience, let's go, chip, chip, chip. Things are going to get crazy in this house tonight, right? Well, for some of you, like maybe you haven't done that for 6, 7 years. You put bad habits in their heart, right, by not asking for it. Right. So we have to make sure that we give them time. And so the best thing to do is just like a little game. Hey, for the next few weeks, I'm just going to let you know when you're not answering me right away and things. And then there's going to come a point, guys, you let your kids know, there's going to come a point that things are going to change. I don't know when, I don't know how, but things are going to change. Oh, I called you 3 times and you finally came over. That works now, but in a couple of weeks, this is no longer going to be good and acceptable. And so you allow your children some time as you are growing and changing and for them to grow and change.